Hi, and welcome to another episode of Nattabox, which, as you know by now, is the podcast where I get the chance to speak to lots of inspirational people from the world of music and entertainment, sports, business, health, and well-being. And we've got a slightly different setup today, and it's the first Zoom podcast, but it doesn't make it any less special because this fantastic lady I had the opportunity to meet sort of around summer, I want to say last year, and at that particular time she was explaining that she was battling breast cancer, and as well as battling breast cancer she was also midway through a divorce. But she was such an incredible individual, and I am pleased to say that she's come through the other side of breast cancer now. But as far as inspirations go, she is also someone who's set up Unique Ladies, and she certainly is a unique lady. So to tell us more about her story, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the fabulous Suzy Orr. How are you, Suzy?
Hi, I'm great. That was a great introduction. I love that, actually.
Well, only the best for the best, and I mean every word of it. And I've got to say, first and foremost, you are looking fabulous.
I'm rocking the sexy skinhead, aren't I?
Love it. Do you know what? And it so works for you as well. It's a fabulous look, because obviously when I saw you last time, you still had your full head of hair, and I know that you mentioned with regards to some of the treatment you were going to have to be going through, that was going to be something that was pretty much inevitable, dealing with the likes of hair loss. But no, you are radiant, glowing. I know you've not long come back from a nice brisk walk outside. So it's fantastic to be able to see you again, and really appreciate your time as well, because I know one of the other things, whilst you have been going through, I suppose, the recovery period, it can have an impact on your energy levels. So yes, just the fact that you've taken the time out to obviously speak with me today, then very, very grateful for that. So Suzy, before we go into your journey with regards to battling and overcoming breast cancer, tell us more about sort of you. What's your background?
Oh gosh, so my background, I did 30 odd years in IT and telecoms, actually. So I was into IT sales, and I ended up, I've got a visitor, I've got the cat walking in here. Sorry, this is Nala just come to say hello like they do.
Hello, Nala.
Nala can go away. So I did 30 odd years in IT and telecoms, and ended up as a senior account director. I think my forte
One
is...
second, Suzy. Sorry, whatever you've just done, I've got no sound.
Nothing.
No.
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing. Sorry, Suzy.
Okay.
Sound of you, not got nothing.
No. Whatever you just pressed down, whatever you just turned down on your computer, just turned me down completely. So Suzy's talk. Oh, there we go. Suzy, say something.
Hello.
Oh, there we go.
Again.
Yes.
Right, there we go.
Turn it down just a touch. Sorry.
No.
Yeah. Oh, up a bit. A bit more, bit more, bit more, bit more. Yeah, about there.
That's the same as it was.
Oh, is it? There we go. Sorry. So Suzy, if you pick back up from, yes, so you used to be in IT and telecom. Sorry.
Yeah, so I did 30 odd years and ended up as a senior account director. And actually, it must be 10 years ago at least now that I got completely disenchanted with it. I now know that it was the onset of menopause.
Right.
At the time, I started to suffer with anxiety. I started to panic that I might forget things in presentations, and at board level, as a woman, I felt very vulnerable. There weren't many women in the boardrooms at the time. And I walked away from it. And when I walked away, I said to my then husband, I'm going to run a women's business network because we're different to men. And he looked at me like I had two heads at the time. And he said, what are you doing that for? I said, because we do business differently. We might talk shoes and handbags, but we do business.
Yeah.
And I'd been booted and suited for years. And it wasn't me. I like, pink and handbags and things. Anyway, I had the idea to start a network. So I started something. We've just had our 9th birthday called Unique Ladies. And it was going to be one.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And the first one we did, we had 45 ladies turn up. We had a fabulous couple of speakers, and everyone was sort of buzzing off of it.
Yeah.
So I carried on with that, and then I was approached by a couple of other towns to, can you do one in Bolton? Can you do one in Preston? And I ended up running 4 across the northwest. So I'm sort of based central Lancashire.
Hmm.
And I was I couldn't, I was spreading myself a bit too thinly. So I had the idea to franchise. So I franchised Unique Ladies probably 7 years ago, 6 or 7. And we've got about 12 groups now, right across the region. So we've got some fabulous women that are running these groups. They're all free membership. They pay as you go, so it's £20. It's been £20 all the time. Probably go up to £25 this year, but at the moment it's £20 once a month. And it's a really fabulous meeting of like-minded women in business to support them, to listen to any issues that they might have, and have fun, actually. And the friendships that come from them are amazing. Actually, while I was in the midst of my chemo and all the stuff going on this year, I had this epiphany and thought, this is the reason I set up the networks, because I had my doorbell ringing and people leaving food on the doorstep, packages coming through the post with very positive books and key rings and flowers and you name it. That those women got me through the last 6 months. They've been wonderful. And we do one that's an online one, which is a national one. And I ran it last week. We had 2 ladies from Estonia on there and one from Spain. So we are well and truly international ladies now. Yeah. So it's wonderful. I get a lot of pleasure from it. Each of the groups that we work with a charity. We always have a charity of the year. So we always give back. And it's been a pleasure, and it's a pleasure to see the women that take over as the franchises and are group leaders, because I've seen a lot of them sort of come into the networks initially very nervous and very unsure of whether they can be successful in business. And now I'm seeing them fly and create these new groups themselves and replicate what I've done with lots of other women. So it's a very special network. I love doing it.
Do you know roughly what kind of numbers it's built up to then in terms of members?
Oh gosh, we've got over 2,000 women on the database.
Really?
Yeah. The groups typically have anything from about a dozen to sort of 35, 40 that meet once a month. So I run a group in Chorley, and there's usually 35 women. If we got to 40, we'd need to get different premises. But yeah, it's fabulous. And they all, we encourage collaboration. So we have a lot of women that might think, oh, she's the same as me. I don't really know if I want to sort of sit next to her or what have you. And I'm like, you do the same thing, do it together. Do it together.
Strength in numbers.
That works. Yeah, it's important, especially for women. I think we have to support each other. We still get it's tough in business, and I think typically a lot of the women are the women that are walking the dogs, feeding the kids, emptying the fridge, doing all of those things. And it's great to have that support. I feel that certainly in Chorley, in the group that I run, I haven't been able to do it. I've had women standing in doing it for me for the last few months, but I'm back there on 1st of May, which is wonderful. And I really feel that we've created a community, and it's a special look. The women in that group will go out of the way to help each other. They really would. I've learned that this last 6 months.
Well, I think that's beautiful, because especially when it comes to business, it's a very sort of competitive marketplace, regardless of what business that you're in. But the fact that you are highlighting on the fact that, listen, even though you are doing what you're doing, to have that collaboration and bring people together it's almost a rarity, which is a shame, really, because as you said, if you've got a couple of people doing the same thing and you can combine those networks, then you don't know what you can go on to achieve. So the fact that you encourage that, and it's not about competition, I think is something that's really, really healthy. And I think that slowly but surely there's a few people that are starting to gather that same mentality for the exact same reason. So the fact that you're sort of spearheading this for Unique Ladies, I think is something that's no doubt going to make a huge difference to them and the future of their businesses moving forward. Now, coming to, obviously, we know that you are completely fabulous. How was it for you? And can you talk us through when you received your diagnosis then? Because you've mentioned, obviously, in terms of your former husband, I said in the introduction that you've recently gone through a divorce. how did all of this come about? Was the divorce already happening? Were you already battling breast cancer? How did it come about?
Yeah, well, no. So interestingly, my husband left in February last year. It was the third time he'd left. Um, I've read a lot about it since, but I've heard a lot about narcissistic husbands, and that's what I felt it was. There was a pattern. So he left for the
How long
third
had you been
time.
together?
We've been together 12 years. We've been
Right.
married nearly 9. We were married 9 years last September, but obviously I'd started divorce proceedings then. So when he went on the 12th of February, I gave it a day, and then on Valentine's Day, I filed for divorce because I thought it was a bit like, again, realization that how long am I going to put up with this? And 2 weeks later, he's trying to come back and forgive me and blah, blah, blah. And I was done. I thought, I can't live like this. I felt like, for a long time, I felt that I've been living on walking on eggshells, as they say. He's a lovely man. He was just, I tried to say to him, this, whatever we had is not there anymore. It's coming to an end. But he was grabbing on and holding on and promising to change things. And it just didn't happen. And we had 3 years really of really not a nice position to be in. And it started actually through COVID and lockdown. And in my mind, it started because he couldn't do stuff that he might have done as an outlet. He used to do a lot of comparing and bodybuilding shows and things like that. And I think once he changed into a different person when he had to be in the confines of, you can't go out, you've got to stay in. And so he went. I was deciding to live my best life. I remember I went to the Pink concert at the Reebok in Bolton on the 7th of June, dyed my hair pink, had the best time ever, desperately wanted to be Pink, doing acrobats over the top of the stadium. I mean, it was just the epitome of an empowered woman when I saw that. And then on the 2 days later, on the Friday, I had my routine mammogram. And I went for it like I always do. And the following week, I got a call back saying, can you go to this other place? That something showed up on your mammogram. And my initial thought was, well, I've no lumps or bumps. I had a really good feel of my breasts, no lumps or bumps. This is why you have mammograms. So I'll go back. And I went to the place where I had to go. And they did another mammogram. She said to me, there's something on your mammogram that wasn't there on your last one 3 years ago. And my first thought was, I've had 3 years of stress at home.
Right, yeah.
That's what's done this. That was my first thought. And I thought, okay. She moved me from the mammogram room into an ultrasound suite. So the lady in the ultrasound then did an ultrasound of my left breast and said, yes, there's a mass there, which I didn't think was a particularly good term to use because I thought that meant huge, there's a mass there we can see. And then said, while you're here, I'm just going to do a biopsy. It won't take a second. I'm just going to give you a local anaesthetic. Just look at the ceiling. And it's a well-oiled machine. I was like, oh my goodness, is this really happening? Gave me local anaesthetic, did the biopsy.
There and then, didn't even move off the bed. I was looking at the top corner of the ceiling thinking, well, I wasn't expecting that, you know. Then I was put in a room with a nurse who was very young in my mind and looked very vulnerable and was asking me if I had any questions. And I said, well, no, because, there's nothing wrong with me yet until I'm told any different. Maybe I'll have questions if I'm told something different. So I was invited back the following week to get the results. And I was just going to go on my own. I didn't want to tell my daughter or my mum because at the time my stepdad was really poorly and my mum was nursing him. I mean, he's since passed away, but my mum was under a lot of pressure really. And I went back the day before my daughter's birthday. So I thought, I'm not going to tell Charlotte that I'm going to go, this is happening. So I didn't tell anyone. And how old is she?
She was 27 the day after, so she's nearly 28 now.
Right.
But the day before I went, a friend came round and she was, like women do, having a coffee and talking about her relationship or whatever. And I opened up and told her, and she said, I'll come with you. And I was like, no, I'll be fine, it'll be nothing, it'll be fatty tissue. And that was what I totally expected to hear. And I was so glad that Nick was with me when the consultant said, you know, he was going through this, we did this and we did that. Unfortunately, it's cancer. And my world just stopped. It was like a scene in a film when your head's just not comprehending anything and everything's going on around you. And Nick was asking really, I can't tell you what she was asking, but at the time I remember thinking, that's a good question, and that's a good question, and I'm glad she's here. And then he asked me if I had any questions, and my question was, would I lose my hair? And can I go on holiday on the 9th of September? And he said 80% of women, or 80 to 90%, I think he said, will lose all or some of the hair on the treatment that we think you'll be having. And no, you can't go on holiday. And that's when I cried. And Charlotte still laughs at me to this day and says, you're the only woman that I know that has never cried because you've had cancer, but cried because you couldn't go on holiday.
Where were you supposed to be going?
I was meant to be going to St. Lucia, and I am going on the 8th of September this year for 2 weeks.
Love it.
The body holiday. It was something I'd done it's a solo holiday. It's something I'd done the year before that was fantastic, just for me. And I plan to do that every year as long as I can. It's an amazing escape. And actually, the fact I had to cancel it was my light at the end of the tunnel. Through all the brutal chemo that I had, through all the early mornings going for radiotherapy, the thought of diving into the ocean in St. Lucia is the thing that's kept me going, especially now as I've got a bald head. It's going to feel fantastic. And in the car on the way home, I said to Nick, I can't think of anything worse than waking up and my hair being on my pillow. Because, you know, my hair, I had very long blonde hair, and I had it cut into a sort of shorter bob earlier in the year when I was just transforming myself. But I'd always had hair and loved my hair. Like we're defined by it, aren't we, as women? And I was really concerned, and I just said to Nick, I'm going to shave it off. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it and try and raise some money for a charity, and I'm going to do it. And then I dithered a little bit. I had my second chemo, and a friend of mine said, I'm going to do I think it was the breast cancer research or something like that, or breast cancer care. What did they call it? Braving the shave. It was a thing that they were doing. And he said to me, I'm going to do it on the 1st of November. So yeah, ridiculously, I shaved my head I had it done for me on the 1st of November. And as soon as I looked into the mirror, I went, wow, that looks all right. And honestly, I was worried about the shape of my head. I was worried about all sorts of ridiculous things. And I have totally embraced it. It has been liberating. I have saved a fortune in colours and glows and products. And I went on Saturday and had it shaved again because, again, the summer's coming now, so it's not too bad. But I think when I get back from St. Lucia, I might let it grow a little bit throughout the winter, because it was cold. I did notice the cold a lot more. I was wearing a lot of, scarves and woolly hats and things. But I won't grow it again. I don't think I'll ever grow it. And it's come out really dark. It's really, I've always been blonde, but my mum said when I was born, my hair was jet black, and then it sort of went white blonde, and then it was sort of mousy blonde. And then obviously I helped it with a bit of colour in later years, but I've never been dark. So no, I love it.
No, like I said, it does look fabulous. I just want to go back to, because you were talking about obviously the treatment and when you first received the diagnosis. Whilst you were having the biopsy and you were thinking, well, I wasn't expecting this, and no, I haven't got any questions because, there's nothing wrong with me. Did you genuinely believe that at the time, or do you think that was a kind of almost like a protection? You were sort of self-preservation just in case. Did you have a little niggle, or you were just convinced that, no, I'm fine?
I had a little niggle. I can't say that I didn't have a little niggle, because I think it's very natural to just have that worry. But the words that were going to come out of his mouth were fatty tissue, and that's what I told myself. And that's what that is what happens to a lot of people. It is fatty tissue. I've had a lot of women contact me. I've had my local ITV Granada reports following my story, so it's been done quite publicly across the Northwest. And I've had ladies come to me and contact me and tell me about their lumps, their bumps. And one of the ladies had to go back, and I had a call back. And it turned out she'd had a boob job years ago and had then had it removed. And it was silicone that had been left in her boob. So it really was nothing to worry about. And there is a lot that it was a cyst, it was fatty tissue. So far, I know lots and lots of ladies are telling me they're going for mammograms. Unfortunately, not one of them has come back and said, I'm in the same class as you know, I've joined that club, which is brilliant, And
what age do the mammograms start? When do they generally advise that you're supposed to go and get yourself checked?
They start around about 50, and there's a big campaign at the moment. There's a lot of stuff on social media about reducing the age. They stop at 70, but ladies 70 and above can still ring up and book one. All they do is they stop sending out, and this is stuff that I'm learning, they stop sending out invitations to go for mammograms. But if you're 70 and above, you can still go, you can still phone up, and you can go every 3 years. If you've got any history, or if you're worried about anything like that, then you can go to your GP and ask for mammograms. You can get them done privately as well, but we have a fantastic National Health Service. And actually, if we find these lumps and bumps sooner, it saves the NHS in the long term. It massively saves them, because, like I said, my journey is over now. I still have to go to hospital every 3 weeks, and it's related to the type of cancer I had. And I have a Herceptin injection, which is to stop particular hormones growing, because this cancer fed off these hormones. So it's a preventative thing. And I have to do that for quite a few years. And I'm on medication until 2033. And then I think it's reviewed. So there's a lot of stuff out there that can stop it. But it's just being aware. And actually, I mentioned earlier that women at a certain age, sort of probably late 30s to mid 50s, who are the ones like me that were running the house, walking the dog, getting the kids to school. I've seen a lot in the waiting rooms that are of that age group that have had lumps and bumps and have been too busy to take care and just go and get them checked out. So my mission is just to keep getting women to go and get their mammograms, because they really do matter and they can make all the difference.
I actually had a lump removed from my right breast when I was 18.
Wow.
And I found a little lump, and it was just something I was conscious of, because cancer is something that runs in my mom's side of the family. And when you're sort of 18 and thinking, hold on, that doesn't feel right. So went and got checked, and they basically, I went to, I think it was Good Hope Hospital in Sutton Coldfield, and they removed it, and it turned out obviously to be non-cancerous, but they wanted to get rid of it just because of the history obviously within the family, just to be on the safe side and everything. So I've still got my little scar, my little reminder. You have just reminded me though, I do need to, it's probably been a little while since I've given myself a check, but that's one of the reasons why I asked as well when it comes to mammograms, because I know when it comes to things like obviously the cervical smears for women, we get the, again, every three, or might even been gone to every 5 years now, that we get the letters through. But my mom's been and had checks, and people that we know, but I'm sort of sat here thinking, I don't actually know what age it is you're supposed to get called up for your mammograms. So I just wanted to make sure that that's some information that we could relay as well to those who are watching or listening, just to spur them on to, because I know, as you've just said, that's something that you're really encouraging people to make sure that they go out and do. So once you've received that diagnosis, you're there with your friend Nick. God bless Nick as well. The fact that she sort of said made herself go with you and sort of said, no, I'm coming. So true testament of a true friend. When the doctor said, other than obviously when he's verified, no, you can't go on holiday, did you ask the questions with regards to, how early might it have been caught? Has it been caught early enough? What's even the survival rates? Was there any kind of fear that almost that came up that made you think, am I going to beat this?
Yeah, it's interesting because they never say, and they've never said it's curable. They
Right.
say it's treatable. And I went to one centre to have these results, and then they referred me to my local hospital, to the local breast care unit at Chorley. So then they sort of say, your next appointment at Chorley is where you will discuss whatever treatment is suitable for you. So that they sort of, pass you on to someone else then. And I must say, when I got to Chorley, the breast care team there have been absolutely incredible. I have a breast care nurse there, Karen, who I can still ring anytime that I want with any questions. And they are such a lovely, kind group of people. And the surgeon that I had is a lady. She doesn't look old enough to be a surgeon, but she's a qualified cosmoplasmologist, Shazia Hafiz, and she's a lovely Shazia. And she was she's interested in the cosmetics of what your breast looks like afterwards. So I had a lumpectomy, and again, because the TV crews were following, the surgery and everything is all on YouTube under Suzy Orr. They've shared everything on there. So I watched on this video footage of them cut my nipple off and go in and bring the tumour out.
Wow.
And actually saw the tumour. So I was in a very fortunate position to see something like that. And then they stitched the nipple back on, and honestly, I have like a little white line around my nipple, and that is it.
Otherwise you'd just never know.
You just would not know. In fact, it was funny because my mum is 84, my mum's lovely, and I came home after the surgery and everything, and I sort of pulled my top up and to my mum and said, "What do you?" And my mum went, "Wow," and I went, "That's the response I want when I get your boobs out." So, and it's healed perfectly. So honestly, you just wouldn't tell.
And how did it feel when you had to eventually break the news to both your mom and obviously your daughter?
So my mum, I couldn't get the words out, and I was really, I was sort of crying before I'd even got the sentence out.
Had your stepdad already passed at this point as well?
No,
and again, obviously condolences for the loss.
Yeah, thank you. He was very poorly, and we lost him in September. But no, my mum just gave me a big hug, and she said, "Everything will be all right." That's all you want your mum to say, isn't it? You've got this. Everything will be all right. And it was more interesting with Charlotte because she and her boyfriend had gone up to the lakes for her birthday. So I found out the day before her birthday. So on her birthday, I thought I couldn't speak to her because I would have broken down.
Yeah.
So I stood up in the morning and I left a voice note, a very happy birthday, it's Mum, I'm so busy today, blah, blah, blah. Hope you have a great day. Catch up with you later. Love you loads. And that was it. And I didn't answer her calls when she rang me. And then they came home on the Friday. And
Was that not like you?
No, no,
Right.
no. But she came home on Friday and went straight up to her room, and Joe, her boyfriend, came in the back. And I said, "Where's Charlotte?" And I think she's sulking with you because you didn't talk to her on her birthday. And I was like, "Oh gosh." I said, "Well, she'll be sulking in a minute because I've got some news that I need to sort of tell you, both." Anyway, when Charlotte came down, that's the same thing. We had a hug, and she was fine. We had a couple of tears, and I said, "This will be fine. They got it early. Don't be worrying." And then a couple of weeks later, I sat back wondering why I'd ever worried about telling my mum and my daughter, because we are from a long line of very strong. Stoic women that, it sort of hit me like a brick. I thought, why were you worried? We're all, we've all got this. We're all very supportive. My nana, who's been dead for years, was exactly the same. My mum's grandma, who I never met, was exactly the same. So I did the family tree in lockdown and got right back to Vikings. So we're Viking warriors. And that's what I kept thinking about. I'm from a long line of Viking warriors, and I'll beat this.
So while you're doing all of this, you're also going through a divorce.
Yeah.
So how did that play a part? Or is it something that you just thought, you know what, I've filed the papers. Did you purposely choose Valentine's Day, by the way? That was one of the things
I
you
did.
did.
I did. It was appropriate. He'd gone 2 days before, and I thought it was a bit of fun, really, in my mind. Well, not that it was fun, because it's a serious
Yeah.
thing, isn't it? So, yeah, maybe there's a bit of devil in me that I'll always have a Valentine's Day. Well, and actually, my divorce came through on Lancashire Day, so I've got I've got days that I'll easily remember. Yeah, it was very difficult because initially he was pushing for all sorts of paperwork to be done and all sorts of things. And I just did not have the energy. I had to go and have surgery, and then I had a couple of weeks, to convalesce, and then I had to start chemo. But I did it. I had, again, through the network, I had friends that helped, that could sort of, fill in paperwork for me and give me.
And did you tell him? Did he know what was going on with you?
I told him through the solicitor.
Right.
And the email that I had to block him on a lot of things because he was being sort of not very nice across social media. But I did get an email where he mentioned something like he was a big believer in karma.
Oh,
and
wow.
Yeah, wow. And I thought, I'm done here. I'm done. So he's got his issues, and I feel now that I have had a massive clearing of lots of things.
Yeah.
The cancer, the marriage. We had a lot of happy times. I've no regrets. I really have no regrets at all. But things come to an end, and there's a rhyme, isn't there, about things being in your life for a reason. And
reasons and seasons. Yeah.
And I very much feel like that. And I am the sort of person that looks forward all the time. So I've got lots of great things to look forward to over this year, and moving onwards.
It's almost like a new beginning for you.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
How did you feel, when you got told that obviously chemo was going to be one of the things that you'd have to deal with? And because again, I've got lots of family members, and touch wood, a lot of them are still with us, but they've gone down the chemo route. And from what you hear, it's just something that is just, you wouldn't sort of want to wish it on your worst enemy. So when you were told that you had to go through chemotherapy, what was your first thought? And then how did it feel when you first had to go to even sat there for the first session?
Yeah, so, well, I think my thoughts have always been cancer's picked on the wrong person, picking on me, because I'm not gonna give in to this.
Yeah.
So chemo was something that I knew I had to do. And the first day I went, I sort of sat there. I had the TV crew there, which makes things go quicker anyway, because they're sort of not messing around, but they're redoing things and jigging things around. And it went really quickly. So I was in a lovely, comfortable chair.
The TV crew were there for the chemo?
Yeah, they came.
Oh, wow.
They came when I had a mammogram. They came for the chemo. They came for the surgery. They filmed the radiotherapy. I really wanted it to be a fly on the wall thing, to help as many people that I know to understand that it's a real thing, and it's something somebody, that people go through, and hopefully people would learn from it and actually not be frightened of it all.
So did you put this to them, or did they say, Suzy, we know you're dealing with this at the minute, but would you mind if we film? Or you just thought, right, no, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to help to change some other people's lives?
I rang them early on, and I'd done something called Women on Camera with Renard Reports a couple of years before, where they wanted more women just to report on things. It was a fun day, really, and we learned an awful lot. And I kept in touch with a couple of the newsreaders. So I rang Elaine Wilcox, who is one of the the main newsreaders, and I said, like, Elaine, I've just had this diagnosis. And she was like, oh my goodness. And I said, I want women to have mammograms, because this shouldn't happen. I don't get cancer. People like me don't get cancer. And I just want to do, would you do something to make women get more mammograms? Anyway, she put it to the editorial team and then rang me back, I think it was a week later, and said, we'd like to follow your story. Would you be up for that? And I just said, warts and all. I said, you can do whatever you want. So I was in the hospital one day when I went, because before I had the surgery, they inject this mag seed into the centre of your breast, and it's a little tiny seed that's got a magnet on, and they embed it into the tumour. So when they go to do the lumpectomy, the machine knows exactly where it's going.
Right.
So you go in and have this pre-op where they inject this thing. And I'm in this room with the ladies who were doing it and the cameraman. And the ladies, one of the nurses is standing at the front of me with a piece of paper for modesty.
Yeah.
And I just said, you don't need that bit of paper. I said, Dougie's seen my boobs more than he's seen his wife's these last few weeks. My boobs have been all over Granada land. And it, you know, at the end of the day, I just got into that. I'm doing it for the greater good. They are just boobs. You know, it's just it's a body.
Yeah.
It's real life. This is what happens. So that, you know, I wasn't. It was warts and all. It was, this is what happens when you've got breast cancer, and this is what you go through.
And I steered you off course ever so slightly because I was asking, obviously they were there to film when you went in to have your chemo and your radiotherapy and everything. So how did you feel at that particular time?
So the chemo was really a breeze. I'd had a PICC line put in before, which is an implant in your arm, so they don't have to inject you or put a cannula in. Right. So it's something that I had to go to hospital for, and they rig it up so it sort of goes in your arm and it comes around your shoulder and it goes down to sort of near where your heart is, and they've got to match it up with your heartbeat or something. But what it means is that they can just plug it in, the chemo, into this thing. So I had that in initially. So I'm sitting in this lovely comfy chair with biscuits and a cup of tea, and it was really relaxing. And actually you didn't feel anything. I couldn't feel anything going in my arm or anything. No, at one point they did there were 2 different chemos that they put in, and when they took the first lot out, they do a wash through, and that was a weird feeling because I could feel this thing wash through. It felt like it was at the back of my throat, just a cold feeling. And it went, and then they put the other chemo in, and it was fine. And the day after I woke up and I thought, well, you know, they said I was going to be ill after chemo, but I feel fine. So I went for a walk with the dog and did, you know, 2-3 mile walk. Came back, thought, this is a doddle. This chemo's a doddle. And the day after, I was so ill. I woke up in the middle of the night, and sickness, diarrhea, everything that you would expect. But the good thing is they'd already preempted that, so I had tablets to take. If I felt sick, take a tablet, and it stops it all. So the worst thing of all the chemo is the energy, the total lack of any sort of energy, to the point where I struggled to get up out of bed and go to the bathroom. And I came down one day to make a cup of tea, and I had to sit on the floor, and it was just, I couldn't walk my dog. I cried about that a couple of times actually, while you know, looking at the dog, who's not bothered whether she goes for a walk or not. But it was tough. It's really tough. And
were you on your own at this point as well? Or did you have just sort of visitors, or was your daughter staying with you at any point?
Yeah, so, well, funnily enough, Charlotte and Joe had just bought a house, so they moved out just before Christmas. So they were there initially. But again, I didn't want them there really while I was dealing with that. So my mum was coming round regularly, and I had quite a few different friends that were coming round at different times. But largely I was on my own. I wasn't in a lonely place or anything like that. I think when you're going through something like that, it's sometimes easier to be on your own and just deal with it. So I got up. I think I had 3 solid days in bed at any one time. But then I started making myself get up, get showered, brush my teeth, and just do those baby steps. Even put, you know, clean pajamas on, something like that, and just, you know, just grit and grin and bear it sort of thing. Watched a lot of box sets because I couldn't really read anything. I had lots of books sent to me, and a lot of books about different cancers, but there's so many different cancers, and people deal with it differently, that I find that they weren't helpful for me. They probably are for some people, but a lot of them were just not helpful. You know, I'd rather go and watch something that, you know, lose myself in a Peaky Blinders or something.
And how many sessions of chemo did you have to have, and in what kind of intervals?
So they were every 3 weeks. So I had them October to December. So I finished my last one just before Christmas. My last one was on the 21st of December.
Yeah.
So I had a real not great Christmas. We planned not to have a great one. But actually on Christmas Day, I managed to get up and get dressed and get showered. My mum came up. We just had a real nice day. We didn't do the big Christmas dinner because you don't have an appetite, but we sort of grazed all day, watched a few, bits and pieces on TV. Charlotte and Joe came round, so I did have a glass of fizz. I did have a Bucks fizz when they came round, and we did a bit of a cheers. And then Boxing Day was the day that it hit me after that session, and then I had a few sort of poorly days then. And then I think it was about 4 to 6 weeks, again convalescing, and then they send you for radiotherapy. So I had to go every day for 10 days up to Preston Hospital. January, cold mornings, freezing mornings, defrosting the car and going to Preston, which is not the best place to get to or to park in. And it's things like that that's, when you're drained anyway.
Yeah.
And it was in the midst of all of this that I heard about this machine that I've since picked up the baton for to get one for the Northwest. I heard there was a machine called an IORT machine, which is an interoperable radiotherapy machine.
Yeah.
And if my hospital would have had that machine, they would have given me the radiotherapy at the point I had my lumpectomy. It would have been done there and then.
Really?
I was like, oh my goodness. Well, why have we not got one? And I was told that there were just 2 in the country, both in London. So one's at the Charing Cross Hospital and one's at the clinic where the Princess of Wales has just been treated recently.
So nothing accessible to anyone in the north, in the Midlands?
Nope, nothing for anybody anywhere. And these machines, and so I said, well, let's get one. How much are they? And they went, oh, they're really expensive. They're £500,000. So me with my business head said, well, that's only 500 businesses donating £1,000. So let's do it. So I was doing some work with a charity called Boutique Breast Cancer, who were fantastic. And I've raised over 15 grand on the Just Giving page, doing various things for them. And that's all just come to a close. And they couldn't, because of the nature of their charity, they couldn't be seen to be doing sort of a £500,000 thing in one area. So on International Women's Day, I launched what we're calling the Suzy Orr Foundation.
Brilliant.
And the sole purpose of that is to get this machine for Chorley Hospital, because it would make Chorley a centre of excellence, and it would mean that women from all over the region could elect to have the surgery at Chorley, and they'd get the radiotherapy at the same time. It would become a self-funding system, really. But the other thing I want to do is find Suzy Orrs in other areas that will do the same for their regions. Because, you need one at your hospital. Every breast care unit should have one of these, because all women matter. Whether you're in London or not shouldn't make a difference. And the fact that there's this fantastic technology that can help us. So my whole journey would have ended before Christmas if that machine had been there. And I think it's it's short-sighted, in my opinion, in the NHS that they don't have them. And we've recently had there was talk about something like £79 billion in this levelling up funding was being taken away from HS2, and they were going to give it to whoever to fill potholes or whatever. And I'm thinking, 79 billion?
Yeah.
And we just want £500,000 in a few hospitals to make it easier. So yeah, I'm on a bit of a mission with that. So I've got a ball arranged on the 28th of June up at...
That's your birthday.
Oh, there you go. Great way to celebrate your birthday.
Yeah.
Well, your birthday's the day I was diagnosed then.
Really?
Yeah, because when I phoned the venue and she said the only date we had is the 28th of June, I got goosebumps because it was the 28th of June that I was diagnosed. Charlotte's birthday is the 29th of June.
Wow.
But there you go. How weird is that?
And Viv Barclay, who you kindly put me in contact with, her birthday's also the 28th of June. So we discovered. So yeah. Wow. So Yeah, that keeps, it's very strange that keeps on popping up. So you've got the Suzy Orr Foundation, and I'm going to touch upon that because I like to do after every sort of episode as well is make sure that there's links to all of these things so that people who want to get involved in some kind of a way, they can do. Can I just come back before we sort of go into more depth about that? Once you had your final bit of treatment and the appointment that led to them saying, right, Suzy, we've got it.
I've had 3 different ones really, because when they'd done the surgery and they took lymph nodes out, I had an appointment then which said there was nothing in your lymph nodes. That was one of the ones where there was relief and there were tears, because that was telling me that they got the cancer out and it hadn't spread. If it had spread, there would have been in the lymph nodes, but there wasn't. So that was very, I was just full of relief for that. The chemo and the radiotherapy were just sort of, what do they call, like the icing on the cake, really, just to really make sure. Apparently this type of cancer, this type of breast cancer, can come back as bone cancer. Right. It can hide in cells in your bones. So I'm on medication now that sort of solidifies your bones, that doesn't let it. I have pains in my bones all the time. So they did the radiotherapy and the chemo just to make sure that they really blasted every little tiny cell that might have been hiding there. I think I've got another appointment in June, which I think is the one where they say you are totally free, even though I know from the conversations I had that it's all gone. But I think, and again, I've spoken to it, I've had some therapy recently that I organised myself, because I have this worry that every lump or bump I get, every pain I get now, is it cancer, is it come back? And which is a very normal thing for anyone, I think, that's had anything like this. So I'm sort of learning to turn that around and just know that it isn't, and it's I'm fine, I'm okay. I can't remember.
No, I was saying in terms of when they said to you that you've pretty much, well, like you said, you got your final appointment in June to get the all clear, but just in terms of how you felt when you were that relief to think, was it a case of I knew I'd beat this, I told them you weren't going to get me, or
There were tears, because actually at the end of chemo and at the end of radiotherapy, you ring the bell in the hospital. They have a real good bell for you to ring.
Is that across all hospitals? Because you see a lot of these things online, and I've got Liam as well, is nodding. Is that something that you've come across? And it's always beautiful to watch, because you get these people and the doctors and the staff, you get a round of applause. So you had all of that.
I had all that, and everyone in the waiting rooms, and at Preston at the radiotherapy, it's quite a big radiotherapy unit there, so, and there's lots of waiting rooms, but you could hear the echoes of everybody in all the different rooms clapping. There's a little poem that you read when you do it, and when I was at the chemo at Rosemere at Chorley, I couldn't even read the poem, because it's a lovely poem, but it's just about, you're done, you're in the past, I was so choked up.
Was it overwhelming?
Yeah, it really is, because I think, probably getting a bit emotional now thinking about it, no matter what, there is always somewhere in your head that tiny bit of doubt, that tiny bit of, has it got me? And as positive as I am, 99.9% of the time, you can't help but wonder. It's so, cancer is prevalent, and it just doesn't distinguish between who you are, where you're from. It really doesn't at all. I have a family member who's 10 at the moment, and he got leukemia when he was 7, and it's come back. We did a fundraiser recently, and I reminded him that we're from a long line of Viking warriors. He needs to be a Viking warrior. So it doesn't discriminate. It's rife, and
I think is it 1 in 2 people now? There's crazy statistics like that.
Ridiculous statistic, And I've learned a lot. I mean, I've changed my eating habits, my drinking habits. I've changed a lot of things. What I put on my skin. I'm really, I struggle with, the bigger corporations that are out there that really are just putting all sorts of preservatives into everything, and there must be a common denominator and all of that. And it's so right, it's in everything. It's in plastics, it's in things we wash our hair with, stuff we put on our face. So I'm taking a lot of supplements, a lot of fabulous supplements, and I'm drinking a lot of water. I've not cut out alcohol because I like a glass of wine.
Yeah,
and,
good for
and
you.
why
Why should
not?
you?
And it's
Don't deprive yourself of the things that you enjoy.
Yeah, but I do, I don't do a lot of pre-cooked anything. I cook from scratch, and I eat a lot of fresh fruit and veg, and where I can get organic stuff, I'll buy organic stuff, because you just don't know what you're putting in your body.
Well, my next question was actually going to be in terms of lifestyle, whilst all this is being going, because I mean, you strike me as someone who's is a healthy lady anyway. I mean, I don't know in terms of sort of whether you're someone who exercised a lot beforehand, but how much of a lifestyle change was this for you then when it came to your diet? Are you someone that sort of generally ate quite well previously regardless, or was this because some people have to go from it's like a complete 180 for some people who are having to deal with this?
No, I was pretty healthy anyway, and sort of my ex-husband from his bodybuilding days, it was always chicken, fish, veg, things like that. I'm not a big chocolate eater or anything like that. My grandparents had a sweet shop, so I've been someone that was brought up with things like that, so it's not something that I do like a piece of chocolate, but I can also have a piece of chocolate and just have one, and that's me done. I mean, the worst thing for me, like I said, was about this energy level where I couldn't walk the dog. So I would normally do a 5-mile loop, and I would do it probably 4 or 5 times a week. I walked every day with the dog. Previously, I've done a bit of sport. I'm not a very sporty person. I've done the gym, I've done squash, I've done swimming. I used to love swimming. But the walking is the thing, just walking in nature for me. So I'm just building up to that. So on the 1st of April, Stand Up to Cancer, we're doing a challenge, and it was a 2 miles a day challenge throughout April. So I started to do that for me because I do have a lull in energy later on, and I hadn't been going out every day with the dog. Most days I had, but I hadn't been every day. So I'm way in advance. I've been doing sort of 3.5 miles some days. Just
That's
to get
really
that
good.
I love it, and especially I mean, I've got to do it between hailstones and all sorts. But it's I really enjoy getting out and walking. And I'll be swimming when I'm on holiday. I'm away to Turkey for a couple of weeks, taking my mum to Turkey just for 10 days. So we'll be doing a bit of swimming, be in the ocean there. That'll be fabulous. But in terms of food, I've not changed an awful lot. I do read a lot more on packets. I am a little bit more selective. I will read things, and I will put things down if I'm not sure. I'm not risking it. My sister sent me a WhatsApp quite early on, and it just said, it was something about mushrooms or mysterious mushrooms or something. And then she said turkey tail mushrooms. And I was like, is this sort of a code or something?
No.
It was a film that she was telling me about. It's on Netflix, and it is about is it Fantastic Fungi or something? But it is about a woman or a family in Canada or somewhere, and she has sort of 5 tumours and what have you. And it's sort of a documentary type thing, but it sort of leads you to believe that the turkey tail mushroom, the mushrooms are fantastic actually. They're what mushrooms do, but this turkey tail mushroom, they reckon, cured her cancer. So I immediately ordered like 400 capsules, and I've been taking turkey tail mushrooms every day since.
I'm gonna put you in touch with a gentleman, and he's someone that's coming on the podcast as well. He's got his own company, and he's sort of a mushroom expert because I am fascinated by mushrooms. That's why as soon as you just said mushrooms, I just lit up because so many people don't realize the healing benefits of the various different mushrooms and things like lion's mane, especially when it
Yeah.
comes for people with Alzheimer's and dementia. I think there's a lot
Yeah.
more studies that are going on with the connection of being able to help on that front. But you've got, I think there's certain ones that are good for even things like pre-workouts. You've got ones that are good for the skin. You've got ones that have the sort of cancer fighting properties, anti-inflammatory. There's a massive, it's a huge world of there's still sort of so much to discover. So the fact that that's something that you're already venturing down that route, then like I said, I'll be sending you some links. I need someone that's coming on the podcast as well, because I just think so many more people need to find out about the benefits of mushrooms.
Yeah, I'll let you know what that film is as well, because it's so interesting. It really is a great thing to watch.
Yeah.
And as you know, I take collo as well. I love the
Yes.
collo, and the
Well, that's
collo
how we
thing.
connected in terms of collagen. Yeah.
So in terms of my nails and skin and everything's fantastic. I've got chemo nails. I don't know if you can see that on there. So I've cut them all down now, but the chemo is coming out at the top. And I lost a nail the other day because the top bit that's got the chemo in, it's coming away from my nail bed.
So that's not bruising or anything there. That's actually just your body's sort of almost like rejecting the chemo that's left in your system.
That's the chemo coming out. Yeah.
Wow.
So the top part of my nail the nail bed is coming off I've been very conscious, but they are very, very strong. And I put that down to the collar, which, like you, I'm taking every single day, and love it. Yeah.
Now I've always got 5 sort of key questions that I like to ask my guests. Before I come to those sort of final questions, I've just got to ask, what's the support network been like for you, but not just from your immediate friends and family, and obviously unique ladies, but those that you might have come into contact with whilst you've been going through your treatment, that you may have met at the hospital or the support of the hospital, and I suppose, support groups that they may have been able to put you in contact with.
Yeah, do you know what? It's a club that nobody ever wants to be a member of, but once you've had that diagnosis, the people are wonderful. So I've sat at Rosemere, which is the chemo ward at Preston and at Chorley, and spoken to other ladies that you can see from the baldness that they've gone through chemo. And we've connected on social media. That sort of support is invaluable. And what I find is the women that have gone through it have been the ones that reach out and that I've reached out to, because it's like my Sarah, who came for a walk with me today, my chemo buddy. We were talking about things that she had never talked to anybody else about, because you're in a safe space and you get it. Someone's been through it, you get it. And you don't always want to you feel like you might be burdening your family and friends because they just want what's best for you. Whereas we're a bit more practical. Once you're in it, it's happening. The breast care people at Chorley, the breast care team have been amazing. So everybody has been supportive. I mean, the Granada ITV news team have been fantastic. It's like going home when I go up to that studio. They are so lovely. And even strangers, I was waiting for someone for a meeting outside the M&S at the Trafford Centre in Manchester a few weeks ago. And 2 ladies came over and said, "Excuse me," and I thought they were going to ask me for directions, and they said, "Are you the lady off Granada Reports?"
Brilliant.
And I was like, "Oh," and she said, "We've both been and had our mammograms because we watched your story."
Really?
And I
How
said,
did that feel?
I got emotional. I just said, "Thank you for coming and saying that." And I said, "That's my job's done. That's all I wanted to do, was just make sure." Everybody says, it's really weird. Everybody tells me I'm brave. And it's the last thing I feel. I don't feel brave at all. For me, it's just important to get this message out and just stop this horrible disease from, spoiling people's lives and things. And if we catch it early, it's done and dusted.
So you would encourage anyone who might be going through this at the moment, if they are sort of sitting there and maybe dealing with it on their own, or thinking, I don't really think a support network is going to work for me. Is that something that you would say, listen, it's definitely going to do you some good?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was fortunate because I have my unique ladies groups, but I know there are Maggie's Centres are a very, very well known sort of support group, and they have them at a lot of the breast care units. And through talking to other ladies, I know that that's really helped them with lots of different things. There's practical things that you wouldn't think about. And in fact, when I went for my Herceptin injection last week, the chemo nurse, who they now know me there, but she asked me if I would go and speak to a lady who was on her second bit of chemo. Her hair had started coming out and she was beside herself, and she said, Susie, would you mind having a couple of minutes with her? And I popped my head round the corner and the lady said, oh, I've seen you on the TV. And I said, I just wanted to sort of let you know. I said, it's awful. It's horrible to be told and for your hair to start coming out. But I said, what I want to say to you is it's so liberating. Excuse me. It's so liberating. And you're beautiful whether you've got hair or not. And her husband leaned over and went, see, I've been telling you that. And I was like, oh, that is so lovely. Yeah. So it's that sort of thing. I think when you've been through it, you can help other people who are going through it.
Yeah.
And vice versa. You know, it's, it's in a really, really perverse way. It's one of the best things that's happened to me, which sounds really weird. But I think it's just made me realise you have one life.
Yeah.
I'm skydiving in June for the charity, for the foundation. I've got my holiday in St. Lucia. I booked a yoga retreat at Christmas in India. I've got so many, I'm not stopping now. You know, we have bucket lists. I'm ticking them all off because, you know, if see it, believe it, achieve it, and just, you know, live your best life.
Brilliant. Well, I mean, Suzy, one of the questions, and that is why I wanted to speak to you, because I knew you were going to be a fabulous guest. How do you define happiness, and how has this evolved over time?
Oh gosh, how do I define happiness? I think peace. You know, if you hand on heart are happy with yourself, that speaks volumes. I mean, I sleep so well at night. Happiness for me is, you know, a walk with the dog, and just, I don't need an awful lot. It's those simple things, just being outside, appreciating nature. You know, gorgeous bluebells at the moment, and, you know, they make me happy. And again, for me, happy. I'm always happy traveling. My passport's with me, and I can go somewhere. I'm happy traveling.
Adding those stamps to it. What are your key contributing factors then, that you think are the main things that contribute to happiness? Whereas, you know, when you've got relationships, money, success, wealth, and those are just examples, and no one ever sort of says that. So what do you consider to be those key factors?
I think you've just got to believe in yourself. If someone would have said to me when I was, I don't know, 13, 21, 31 even, you know, I see things in my daughter that she would never see in herself. It's having that confidence just to be happy with yourself, be grateful for who you are, whoever you are and however you look, just be grateful. We're all unique, aren't we? We're all very different. For me, there's a lot of rubbish going on in the world. We should just all respect each other. You know, respect for people, no matter what the religion is, no matter what the colour is, no matter what their views are. Just respect them all and just be happy with yourself.
And obviously, we've heard you've been facing some very challenging times in a number of different aspects of your life. But when facing these challenging times, how have you managed to sort of dig deep and overcome adversity? And then how has that shaped your perspective of life?
I think for me, going back to that, the fact I couldn't do that holiday, which was my dream holiday, and to just have that light at the end of the tunnel. So when I was in, you know, under the duvet, feeling absolutely just awful, all I kept visualising was diving in the ocean in St. Lucia. And that one thing has kept me, you know, just so looking forward to it. I'm going to be in tears flying over there. I'll be in tears at the airport, and I'll be in tears when I land there. And when I'm on the beach in St. Lucia, and there's a group of us going now, so I will get someone to film it, but I will just there'll be tears all over me.
I think there'll probably be tears when I see it popping up on your Instagram feed as well, because I'm going to be so happy for you.
Yeah.
How important do you consider maintaining your well-being and overall self-care to be?
Oh gosh, it's so important, because without it, you can't do anything, can you? You've got to, and it's fundamental, it's basic things, getting good sleep, I've spent a fortune on new duvets and stuff because I've spent so long in bed, but I'm sleeping really well. Water, here I am, I'm drinking lots of water. Really simple things, you know, it's not expensive to look after yourself.
Yeah.
And we're in a bit of a world where there's a lot of greed and people pile plates up and stuff. So, you know, just basic fresh foods. And I mean, I love a mozzarella and tomato and basil and a bit of balsamic and stuff like that. And something like that fills me. I'm quite happy with things like that. So just, I think the best quality of food, but just have small portions of it, you know, a walk every day. And if you can't walk very far, just a little walk.
Yeah.
I've really learned this year to listen to my body, because I am a doer. I'm up and I'm always busy doing things. And I've learned to, in the afternoon now, and when we're done here, I shall go and, in fact, I'm watching Peaky Blinders, so I will be going and having a little bit of Peaky Blinders. And I'll be enjoying sitting with my feet up and a nice cup of herbal tea, and just enjoying, you know, the fact that it's still a blue sky out there. It's the little things.
And Suzy, what's your go-to song? If there's a song, what piece of music do you that can, if you're sitting there and you might be in a little bit of a funk, you might be having a little bit of a down day, or you might just want to put on that piece of music that instantly lifts your spirit, what would your go-to song be?
If it was to lift me instantly and get me up dancing, Sylvester, You Make Me Feel Mighty Real.
Did someone else say that recently? Why do I feel someone else has said that one?
It's just one of the, it's
a brilliant track.
To being about 15 or 16, and you can't help but whiz around the dance floor. But my very, what do we call it? Your secret, whatever. I'm a massive Barry Manilow fan.
Right.
So Barry Manilow, he has a song, Even Now, he has an album, Even Now. And that makes me cry every time. The words are fabulous. And one of his songs, which I've started thinking a lot more about, is I Made It Through the Rain. And the words to that are powerful. And I'm actually, on my birthday, on the 2nd of June, I'm doing a meet and greet with Barry Manilow.
Are you really?
It's cost me the price of a kidney. But again, I just had my first chemo when the tickets came on sale, and I knew they do about half a dozen of these platinum ones where you get time with him on your own. And I thought, sod it, I'm doing it. And just to sort of finish, my sister was here. My sister came up from West Sussex the first time I had chemo, just to sort of make sure I was okay. And she brought me a cup of tea upstairs, and I was sitting on the edge of my bed crying. And she came in and she said, Suze, you'll be fine. You've got this. You'll be absolutely all right. And I just looked up at her and I said, I'm not crying because of the chemo. I'm crying because I've just got a platinum ticket to see Barry Manilow. And she went, yeah, all right, you know. I won't tell you what she said. It was hilarious. Yeah, so she thought I was crying because of the chemo, and I was crying because I was so thrilled I've managed to get this ticket, A15, on the front row, on my birthday, in June, with Barry Manilow. So I'm thrilled about that. So yeah. Maybe a bit of You Make Me Feel Mighty Real and Copacabana. How's that for
some great tracks? Listen, because what we're doing is putting a nice little playlist together as well from all the guests who come on, so that people can just sort of have a listen. There's been all sorts of different people who've been mentioned, so it's going to make for a really nice listen for a lot of people. And I just wanted to mention as well that we've been talking about obviously sort of breast cancer and coming through and how it affects a lot of women, but also men can be affected by breast cancer. My hairdresser back in the day, he had breast cancer, and it was about the size of a 50 pence piece.
Yeah.
So just for anyone who's listening, then it is something that obviously can affect men as well. So I'm sure that everything that you're going to be doing with the Suzy Awesome Foundation is going to make a difference to not just a lot of women, but there's going to be men who are going to be able to obviously to benefit from that as well. So what do people need to do when it comes to the foundation, and how far along are you in terms of what you've raised so far? How far have you got to go?
Well, we've got to get the charity number, which we are hoping to get confirmed within the next week or so. We've got the balls sorted. So we've got the fabulous Ricky Tomlinson coming to compare our ball. And we've got a swing band and a couple of amazing singers, Asa Murphy and Steve Charles. So it'll be a brilliant night. We've had pledges of probably up to about 20 grand, I think, in pledges. I've not pushed it out because we hadn't got the charity number. I needed to wait for that before I can go and push it to the businesses. But as soon as I get that charity number, I'm going to be doing a lot more stuff on social media, and I'm going to be starting with sort of my local Northwest area. But if anyone's listening from anywhere else and wants information on this machine to do something similar for their local breast care units, I am more than happy for people to contact me, and I will help where I can. I've asked for an introduction to the manufacturers of the machine and to the suppliers of the machine. So, if we're going to get more than one in the country, which I'm sure we will do, then there's room for negotiation. But anyone that's got any access to any sort of funding, anyone that needs to tick a CSR box from the business, we're doing it as sort of a 500 club. So we'll have 500 people or 500 businesses that have all donated £1,000. They can donate more. There's lots of people out there who've got money that they want to put into something. They will make a huge difference. And we need to replicate it across the country.
Well, I know by the time this is going to be going out, your charity is going to be up, running and flying by then. And as I mentioned, any links that we can put to Unique Ladies as well, then that will all be attached to this particular episode, so that people will get the chance to find out more and obviously contribute where they see fit, because obviously it's a great cause. Suzy, you are awesome. No pun intended, but just love the fact that you've kept that name. So do you know what is it when they do? Is it not by Depol? That's what they say in America. But is it something?
I think you change it by Depol here too.
Is that here as well? Yeah. So is that something that might be a possibility? I think you should.
My friend who suggested it to me said it was on when my divorce came through. She said, "Are you going to change your name? You're going to go back?" I was like, "No, people know me as Suzy Orr." She went, "Well, I think you should change it to Suzy Awesome because you are."
Perfect. No, I love it. Suzy, you are absolutely fabulous. And I'm so glad as well that you have come as far as you have. I'm very excited for all of the journeys that you've got planned and the next chapter of your life. I just want to say as well that sending so much love, not just from myself, I'm sure from the people who are listening and watching, to your young family member as well. That and I'm glad they've got people like yourself there, as well as the rest of the family to support. So I'll be keeping them in my thoughts and prayers as well. So sending big hugs their way. But yeah, you are fabulous. Suzy Orr, thank you so much for joining me on the Nattabox podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure. It really has.
All mine. Thank you so much.
Really appreciate you. For yourselves at home, then that is the latest episode of Nattabox. As always, feel free to click the usual link, like, follow, subscribe buttons to make sure you don't miss out on the next episode. But in the meantime, then take care and see you next time.